if you record drums at home, professionally, whatever it is, you'll know that the biggest killer for a snare drum or toms is always going to be cymbals. You know, you get this great sounding snare drum, and then the drummer turns up with some like Z Customs or some super loud hi-hats. And hi-hats need to sound a certain way, but a snare needs to sound a certain way. And that certain way is not having a load of bleed. Well, I found a plugin that I think does the best job of getting rid of all that bleed that I've ever really encountered, and I want to share it with you now because it's inexpensive, it's kind of new, and it just does a great job. So let's take a look. So here it is before, and then it's a pretty massive difference. So this plugin is D-Bleed, and this is from the Home Recordings. Now, you may not have encountered this company before. They're relatively new. They've got a few plugins out there. But this one does a few things really well, and it does it better than even my favorite gates, which we're going to come on to in a moment. But just briefly, let me just talk you through it. So you've got a kick setting, snare top, snare bottom, and tom setting. Genuinely, for me, I'm just sticking it on snare top and then just saying, go, have fun with it. I'm not really changing anything. You've got this D-Bleed setting and a release and a hold as well, which can be useful. D-Bleed is like really gentle or really aggressive. So let's just kind of tune that a little bit. We've also got a ghost setting, which often you find that on plugins of this nature, you have these extra little settings, so like a ghost setting, and you know that they were made with really good intentions and that they kind of think that is going to solve this problem. And 9 times out of 10, they don't. Like, they do this one job really well, but then the ghost notes just kind of go away. That has always been my main drag with gates. They don't really deal with those ghost notes, and it makes sense because of the way, you know, a gate works. It's a set threshold. But this ghost actually works. So let's bring the D-Bleed all the way down to subtle and then just bring it up and see what kind of range we got with this thing. So this will be less removal of cymbals to start off with. Let's bring it up. Intense. Okay, I kind of like it where it is. And we can bring the release all the way down or all the way up as well. And this goes crazy long. We don't really need it that long for a snare drum, but it's nice to have it. So let's go from the minimum and try and find a sweet spot. Nice. The threshold we can bring up or down depending on how loud our drum is. And just kind of tune it to where it's not picking up kicks or toms or anything like that. What this does really well is it's obviously like not just a gate. It's kind of a frequency dependent thing where it's noticing all of the high points or anything that reaches the threshold, and it's saying, right, I recognize that as a snare drum. So I'm going to allow the top end to just kind of come through for a moment and then dull out. You'll hear that when the snare is present, you have all that top end. And then depending on the amount of D-Bleed and the threshold, if there's a kick, for example, you can still hear that kick, but it's just no top end to it, and it's just really subdued. It's kind of brought down in level, and it just sits in the background far better. So you can think of this as a really natural sounding gate. I've always kind of favored expanders over gates because I think they're more natural, and this sits kind of in that camp, but it does all the things that a gate should do. The idea, the concept of a gate is fantastic, and the idea of an expander is slightly more attractive, but this kind of sits in the middle and does the best of both worlds, really. So I just want to bring up my favorite kind of gate and just see how it performs against that. Now, my favorite gate has always been in the virtual mix rack, and this is the Slate Digital, you know, the gate. Let's get rid of all that. and then bring in this gate. So let's bring in the drum one. And don't get me wrong, this does a great job. So let's get rid of all this. Let's get rid of D-bleed. Remember, I've got my processing on here. So I've got like some high-end EQ, some pretty aggressive high-end EQ, some low-end EQ, and then a decent amount of compression as well. So this is happening before all that processing. Let's just see if we can tune this gate in to do a similar thing. It will do a similar thing, but I feel like D-bleed is better. Just altering that transient detection. Okay, let's make it so it's not listening to the bottom end. And top end. Tuning that around the snare. Kind of killing it. Now, don't get me wrong, this D-bleed section is great and it really, really helps with the cymbals. But the beauty of that home recordings D-bleed is that the ghost notes just come back. You just have it. It's a little bit more intelligent. See those ghost notes, or not ghost notes, but quieter notes kind of just died. That bit again. Okay, let's hear it with D-bleed now. Bit more natural, back to the gate. Now, I guess one thing you'll notice is that I'm tweaking this gate, and admittedly, I could get a better sound than I just have with that gate with a little more tweaking. But with D-bleed, when I had that on, let's just bring that back into play. What did I do? I clicked snare top, I clicked ghost, and just kind of let it fly. So just to show you that I've not actually done any like crazy settings here, let's just take that off and then bring D-bleed back on. Let's just hear it at its normal settings. Even on the kick preset, it's fine. Just click snare top. Seconds. What was that? Less than 10 seconds. It's just a super intuitive way. And I'm not saying that it's better than every single gate and that the person using it can't get a better sound out of a gate if they know what they're doing. That, you know, that's down to someone's personal skills. But to me, I like to mix fast. I like to mix numerous tracks in a day. I can't get along with just mixing one track in a day. It does nothing for me. The best thing about this plugin is that I can just bring it up, click snare top, click ghost, and it's kind of done. I can tweak the threshold and the D-bleed amount and release or whatever if I want to, but it comes with just a great sound right off the bat. And to me, mixing a lot of songs in a day as I do, that is so vital to just stick on and just say, right, too much hi-hat in there, let's put it on. So I could show you all the kick and all the tom stuff, but just know that it works as well for those as it does for snare. So in the interest of keeping this short and snappy, the home recordings D-bleed is my secret weapon for getting rid of any hi-hat spill on a snare. And I hope it is yours, because there's a link down below where you can grab it. I don't know how much it is. I'm going to put an amount on the thing down the bottom here because I'm terrible. I've got a bad memory. But it's not very much money. And yeah, I hope you get some use out of it. I'll see you again soon. Take care.